McCalmont to the programme, who's the racing advisor to Marc Chan, who owned yesterday's Haydock winner Kinross, and also a bloodstock consultant to many of the great names of the turf. And he'll have a keen interest in the Derby next week, but it had a keener interest over the last few days in what was happening at Doncaster at the rescheduled or rerouted Arcana sale, Breeze Up sale, which was an extraordinary barometer of the sport's health, I guess, Jamie.
Yeah, it was a great effort by the French sale company to actually get the sale on for 2 years in a row when nobody could get to France. The standard of horse this week was probably the best I've ever seen at a 2-year-old Breeze Up sale in Europe. And, yeah, it was a great success, I think.
I mean, we talked about racing around the world and racing here, and we talk about the prize money ad nauseum, really, on this programme. How can you, as an agent, a bloodstock advisor, readily go to a sale like this and get your head around spending £300,000, £400,000, £500,000?
Well, I mean, you know, you're trying to find your clients good horses, and a good horse can come from anywhere. It could be a foal, it could be a yearling, you could breed the horse yourself. You know, so I understand what you're saying about the prize money, but at the end of the day, you know, I've raced all over the world, and I think, you know, English racing is, you know, the best in the world as far as I'm concerned. It has the best quality of bloodstock, and if you want to compete with the best, well, you need to be in Europe. And
how well do you think it's clinging on to that reputation?
I think the gene pool has a considerable amount to do with it, and as you see now, Americans are now, in the last 5 years, have started coming to English sales to buy English yearlings, which 10 years ago they didn't buy any of those horses. And you know, that's a reflection on the best bloodlines being brought back from America to Europe in the 80s and the 90s, and you know, the fruit of that is now bearing fruit today. And you know, racing is all about breeding as far as the best horses are concerned. I mean, you can see that with Galileo, you can see that with Judgmont, and you know, so on and so forth. You know, it is about the gene pool, and we have the best bred horses in the world racing in England, Ireland, and to some extent France.
You got the Derby next week, next Saturday, Jamie. I know you're something of a traditionalist, and how do you feel about the Derby moving back to a weekday?
I think it's a must. I think in my youth growing up, when the Derby was on a Wednesday, everyone was, you know, London stopped the same way I believe Australia stops for the Melbourne Cup on a Tuesday. You know, the first Saturday in June is a very, very hard day to compete with. You know, it's a day where where there's a lot of weddings that day, there's sports day at school, there's the village fete. Every other year you've normally got a very big football match, whether it's the World Cup or the European deal. I think, you know, when you can have the race in the middle of the week, I think it can be much more front page news on Thursday, on the Thursday after the race, rather than on the Sunday after the race. I mean, moving it to a later time in the day, I think has been a very creative thing. I think everyone has worked really hard to make it work on Saturday, but I don't think it works.
Let's talk about Kinross yesterday, Jamie, your advisor to Marc Chan. This was a big performance. How high do you think he could go this year?
Well, I certainly, we bought him to run in Dubai over the winter, and that was a disaster. And, you know, we've since gelded him, so just to see him come back and win yesterday was quite a relief. Marc Chan and his wife Lily had a great week. You know, they broke the track record with a horse called Tsar that you probably remember from John Gosden's. And then Friday night he had his horse Jean Bleu win for the second time at Pontefract, and then we had this nice win yesterday. We'd had a bit of a drought up to that point, so yeah, it was a big relief, really.
And how big does Marc want to get into racing here?
Marc is very, very global. He wants to have horses racing globally. But, you know, obviously, you know, he's a very good friend of Frankie Dettori's. And, you know, he's got horses in England here with John Gosden, Rafe Beckett and George Scott. And then we got a couple of horses in Ireland with Jesse Harrington. So, yeah, you know, he's yet to come in England. Sadly, because of COVID, he won't be here for Ascot. But yeah, he's a great fan of the sport. But he realizes and can see that when you're racing for maiden races in America at 90 to 100,000, compared with the maiden races here, from an economic perspective, of course that makes a lot more sense. The same way with racing in Australia. And, with modern businessmen, to get them to support English racing, we clearly have to make it more viable. I don't think anyone goes into racing to own horses to make a profit, but, we need to try and make it more possible for them to break even rather than, constantly losing money. And the way the prize money is structured in England today, there's, a lot of people are just holding it up through their absolute love of the sport. But how long is that going to continue? I don't know.
Jamie, thanks so much for your time this morning.
Good talking with you, Nick. Thank you.